Okay, folks, how you doing today? This is Cecil and Bill.
Hello there.
With Aberrations in the Wild. We're going to talk about some more sound effects. We hope they are Bigfoot sounds, and they're purported to be, so let's talk about them, Bill.
Well, today, what I got three more sounds. They're, funny enough, they're from Sierra Nevada. If you remember, we talked about the Nevada sounds, the Sierra sounds. We played some of those creepy ones. This is going to be the same place. I believe it's actually the same. It might not be the same excursion, but it's the same guys.
Right.
And so what they've got, they heard Bigfoot off in the canyon. They heard what they thought was two of them, and they start mimicking the sounds back. Well, they start going back and forth. So that's kind of cool. So you'll be able to hear a reported Sasquatch, possibly two, and then you'll hear Ron Moorhead hollering across the mountain to them and them responding. Then we have another sound that is kind of similar. Like if I told you it was a year apart, but it was the same Bigfoot we heard last week or 2 weeks ago, you probably believe that. Sounded real similar. And then we're going to have at the end, there's I'm just going to have to play it. I don't even know how to describe it. It's a very interesting sound. Very ape-like in the beginning, but then you're going to hear something else. The conjecture is that it was a Bigfoot and possibly a juvenile.
Yeah.
And they got kind of out of their safety zone and into a space where they were interacting with humans. And Dad Bigfoot is like, let's go. Or he was injured and couldn't leave. And Juvenile didn't know what to do.
Could be.
That's kind of what it sounds like to me. I didn't hear that until it was suggested to me that was the case. And then, of course, the power of suggestion is pretty strong.
Oh, yeah.
So
usually is.
Yeah. Do you just want to jump right in here? The first thing we have here?
Let's hear it.
All right. So we have some of the sounds from the last couple episodes that we can reference back, but this is the first one we have for you. So that's very ape-like. That's a short one. But if you think of, like, if you hear jungle sounds or something like that, it sounds like a pretty common sound. But if you think of you're in Nevada, this doesn't sound like a common sound in Nevada. And then again, also, what does everyone say Bigfoot is? It's a hoax. So Cecil, tell me how you hear this being hoaxed.
Okay, there's a quality to that sound that I hear. I don't know if anybody else does, but it has. All right, I can hear myself trying to make that sound, and in making that sound, I'm going to be kind of high pitched. Now I know I have a low voice, but I can reach higher pitches if I really try. But that has an undertone to it that. It's kind of like a vibrato, a little bit of a vibration in the sound,
almost
guttural,
like a reverse falsetto, almost.
Yeah.
And the pop when it jumps, almost the yodel.
Yeah.
When it pops up an octave, you or I could do that if we tried real hard. But can we do that consistently 5 times?
No, I know I couldn't.
I mean, think of the lung power.
Yeah.
And you're keeping the exact same sound.
Yeah.
That's not a replay. It's the one recording.
I put, maybe it's possible. I don't know, but I personally, I don't think so. And in the first place, even if it were possible, who in the world would be out in the middle of nowhere doing this and hoping that someone would be around within hearing range,
right,
to even hear it, let alone record it?
Often I hear, the people that recorded it faked it. Ron Moorhead faked it. First of all, I don't believe Ron Moorhead faked it. But second of all, so you hear where the guys are in the next clip. You're going to hear the guys camping and they're talking back and forth to get that clear of a sound to where they are. Again, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, getting that long distance sound to carry.
Right.
But then also sounding that close. So the next one we have is kind of a similar, same place. These are all from the same camp. So let's just give it a listen and we'll chat it.
Yeah.
Ron.
Okay. If he was faking it, let's put it this way, he would have to be at one place doing the sound which sounds more like him, and he would have to go somewhere else to do the other sound, because those sounds are definitely far apart.
It was funny when I was queuing the sounds up. Cecil said from over across the room, not seeing what I was playing, that sounds like a Bigfoot in person.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't know what I was queuing up.
No, I didn't.
So I want to come back to that one, but while we're having fun with sounds here, let's go ahead and play this third one.
Sure.
Now this one is interesting. You're going to hear again that same ape-like sound that we've been hearing in the past couple, but then you're going to hear some very interesting sounds. And I want you to think back to the really scary ones we heard.
Yeah.
They call this samurai chatter. And then you're going to hear that sound like what I talked about, that infant maybe in despair at the end.
There's two of them across the creek at the big rocks.
That end howl sound, that wasn't a person.
No.
That wasn't a wolf.
No, it wasn't a wolf either.
There's a sound in the middle there that they call, I don't know if you heard it, it's very they call
low.
that, yeah, they call that the samurai sounds. I'm trying to find and all of these are from the same place from the last couple of weeks. These are all in Nevada, of all places. Yeah. If I said I had 3 weeks worth of podcast on Bigfoot sounds, you would think, okay, he's in Oregon, he's in Washington State. Nope, these are Nevada. So all of these in the same place. But those samurai sounds, there are cleaned up versions out there. I'll have those for next week because I feel like that's its own issue right there, because there's a lot of breakdowns of the technical side of those sounds. But I did want to make sure that you could hear them there. And I'll kind of point them out when we listen to it the second time. It's very distinctive. It's very, if I've ever heard Bigfoot give a language, that would be it, more than anything else, because it sounds like samurai chatter.
Yeah, I've heard little babies. Everybody's heard little babies, pretty much, and they seem to have their own little bit of a language between each other, and it's almost like they're talking when they're just making baby noises, and that's been studied by scientists and so forth, and they believe that is some form of a language, and not that every one of them understands it, but they're communicating, or at least trying to communicate, and it's their precursor to being able to speak in real languages. So with that in mind, the type of sounds that I heard, the structure is the part that I'm talking about, sounded similar to those lower sounds in the background that you could just barely hear, and it didn't sound like babies were making them, but it sounded to the same kind of structure as possibly a young Sasquatch or some sort of being besides human was making, and it sounded like a garbled communication.
I postulated on this quite a bit over the week, what could be going on, and now this is complete speculation, I'm just making it up, but it sounds to me like we talked about maybe the dad Bigfoot and adolescent. It sounds to me like if you put all of these together, like I said, Bigfoot got out of where they were supposed to be, and maybe dad was in trouble, trying to communicate to Junior somewhere because there's people nearby. But it sounds like this is going on and on and on, and then finally Dad breaks down in a lower voice and says basically, listen, son, you got to do XYZ. And son doesn't know how to respond to that, and he just moans out in desperation because he's, this is he's scared.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me, because the way that samurai sounds comes out, blah, 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 it's like he gave up on the howls. He gave up on the ooh, ooh. He just said, kid, this is what's happening. And the kid's like, no, Dad.
Yeah, that's entirely possible.
I know it's speculation, but
and that's okay. It's okay to speculate. We have no proof one way or the other.
This is true.
And I can't say that I have a different opinion, but I have a slightly adjusted opinion.
I like that.
And it's like, regardless of whether Dad's trying to correct the child and call it back, or just talking to it, period, and the child is just being a child, and Dad's talking to it, and whether it's trying to chastise it or get it to stop, could be either one to me, all right? And but still, it sounds like a child and an adult type of communicating.
I don't know if in this particular range, is it in a migration area, and that's why we get different kind of dialects, different accents, if you will.
Yeah.
Or different slang, that could be in a migration area. Who knows? We don't know anything. We just speculate. What we do know is there's weird sounds, and we have recordings of them, and that's all we really know.
Yeah. That's all we know, except that we have footprints all over the place, and we have some videos here and there. Now, we don't have any videos right now to show you, but we have videos, and we will be dragging those out eventually. And speaking of the videos, I tried to do a little research yesterday. With my arm, it's still pretty difficult to manipulate a mouse and everything, so it's kind of hard for me to do a lot of research right now. But I did watch a little bit, a couple hours actually, and the first video I popped up on, I don't remember what it was from now, but it was on YouTube, and caught in pictures and all this kind of stuff. It was the headline is like, oh, here's the real thing and all this kind of stuff. And I'm here to tell you, I do believe that one was a hoax.
Yeah.
Straight up, I believe that was a hoax. It kind of reminded me of Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh, jeez. Good movie, though.
Kind of look, yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty cool movie. But if you look at Harry and the Hendersons, he had, obvious things about him that you could tell it was makeup and such. And this video had, to me, looked the same way. Then a little bit later, then I saw another one where BFRO, they did research in this area where a woman and her husband had seen something that they claimed was probably a Bigfoot. But in reality, when they put Bobo out there, Bobo was actually bigger than in the same exact spot, the same scene with the same branches to compare him to and everything. Bobo was a lot bigger than the actual video was, the original video. And then when they played the original video back, I looked at it, and to me, it was so human-like it was not even funny. So somebody was goofing around, or they faked that one, and or somebody just happened to be out there in a very unusual place and time, which, yeah, that can happen.
It can happen.
Yeah, it can very much happen, but it seemed to me obvious to be a human on that one. But then a little bit later, they showed some more and showed some videos, and they were very, very realistic looking. They showed one as well where in the center of the screen, they said, look at this outline, you can see the shadow of what looks like a Bigfoot in the background. And then in the daytime, they went back and they checked that same spot out, and you could see the same outline in the daytime. It was shadows from the branches and things that just happened to look like a Bigfoot standing there leaning out. And then, of course, I've seen one where the Bigfoot leaned out and then went back behind the tree. So that obviously wasn't.
I think I've seen that one.
Wasn't the leaves, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that one there, and then popped back out several times. I think 4 times, if I remember correctly. Of course, my memory is about like, you know, who knows? But sometimes I don't get the numbers right. But so anyways, the point is I saw it several times, and I just made me believe that there was something there. Now, it was either Bigfoot or some person in a kind of a outfit of some kind. And, and I'm thinking, with all these people carrying guns around, I know there's some that go out and actually do hoaxes. I know for a fact there are.
Oh, yeah.
But to me, that is absolutely ludicrous to do that when there's people carrying 30-06s and shotguns and all kinds of stuff that are looking for Bigfoot. And seems to me like you stick your face out from behind a tree, you could just stick it out there for the last time ever. And that doesn't sound too appealing to me. It doesn't sound too smart either.
Let's call this a full-on public service announcement. Don't hoax Bigfoots, people. And it's not because, there's 2 sides to that. One, it really angers us guys.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It makes us so
does.
mad. And I know you think it's funny, whatever. Secondly, though, and on a serious note, people would love to get people that don't even like to shoot guns would shoot a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
For the fame, the notoriety, the money. Because all of those people that have Bigfoot stories are labeled crazy, but that guy that's got a body, he's not crazy. And people will take that shot. I don't care if they're like, maybe it's a guy in a suit, maybe not. We're going to risk it. Don't do it, folks. It's too dangerous. It's not worth the 15 minutes of fame for somebody to watch your video and go, well, that's a hoax. It's not worth it. Don't get yourself shot for no reason.
And that 15 minutes of fame ain't going to come around if you're the one that gets shot.
Right. Or if you're caught hoaxing. Also, aside from that, a more rare possibility is you run into Bigfoot.
You have to imagine Bigfoot running around out there in the woods and coming up with some yokel trying to imitate him. He's going looking at him like, what in the world is wrong with you, dude?
Or he thinks you're pretty and he takes you home.
Yeah, there
you don't want that either.
You don't want that either.
So I wanted to pull one thing back around real quick, Cecil. We'll make it kind of fast. I know we're kind of short on time once again. But I think when we shorted the time a little bit, we got more in a less amount of time. I liked it.
Yeah. So
we talked about Nevada. We talked about the Ohio sounds, and we talked about the possible migrations through Nevada. So I would like to play for you the Ohio sound again. This is the Ohio call. So siren-like.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like a warning. Considering that we don't know the language, we don't know anything about it, I could believe that was 2 similar creatures in 2 very different situations.
I would say so.
Yeah.
The tone quality of the 2 did not sound alike to me at all.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, I think it's fascinating that, as a rule, I call someone and without caller ID, I say hello, and they say, "Oh, hi, Cease." My voice is distinct and it carries, and it's easily recognizable. I had a guy in the line at a store I hadn't seen in like 15 years, and I spoke to the cashier, and the guy pops his head out and said, "Cecil, is that you?" and I looked around. It was a classmate that I hadn't seen in like 12, 15 years, and so. But his voice I recognized as well. Okay, his is less distinct than mine, but and it's not about mine being distinct. The point is that each and every one of us has our own tone and quality to our voices, and we recognize that readily when someone calls us. Almost every time we hit who it is instantly,
Even without phrasing,
yeah,
just from sound and pitch.
Yeah, just from just sound and pitch. So Bill's sound is radically different from mine, even though he's got a little bit of a deep voice, and I've got this deep voice, but our qualities are different. It's not about good or bad; it's just different, and it's distinguishable between us easily. And I think that those two sounds are easily distinguishable as two different entities, whether it was human or Bigfoot. I think Bigfoot, but still, the point is I'm not trying to. Yes, I am. I'm trying to convince everybody that Bigfoot's out there. But
I like it, Cecil. Let's just put it out there.
but the truth of it is I'm willing to concede that may not be. Okay.
Okay.
I'm willing to concede that. But at the same time, we have different quality and different voices at different times, and none of those match the quality of the voices of the people that are in the recordings as well. None of them match up with the sounds of the Sasquatch sounds that we're calling Sasquatch.
You, I think you said it right on the money. You and I, very distinguishable, different voices.
Yeah.
You can listen to our podcast and not watch it and know who's speaking, both by mannerisms, tone, pitch, the things we say. You're going to know who's who, but you know what you're also going to know?
What's
and
that?
Please don't get upset when I say this. It's two male humans having a conversation.
Yeah.
When you hear us, we are two male humans having a conversation. Color wouldn't matter. Any type of orientation wouldn't matter. But if you just heard it, you would go, oh, there's two males having a discourse, a conversation about something.
Right.
So I think the same thing applies here. They're so different, but it's two similar creatures. Also, I did want to tell you, you have an extreme, I'm supposed to tell you, and I said I would say it on air, you have an extremely soothing voice.
Oh, scares me.
One of my coworkers has been trying to listen to our podcast, and you keep soothing her to sleep every time. She said it's not boring content. His voice is just so soothing. I go right to sleep. She has a new grandbaby at her house. Shout out to Donna. They have a new grandbaby at their house, and she's spending time with the baby and working nights with me. And she says, I've been trying to listen to your podcast, but his voice is so soothing. I just go to sleep. So I'm going to tell him that on air.
Oh, it scares me. I bore him to death. I bore him to sleep. But I thank you, Donna.
Donna. Yeah.
Thank you, Donna. And I don't know if that's a thank you or a sorry, but either way. But it's not the first time I've heard that, actually.
Yeah.
My ex used to say my voice calmed her daughter down, and she, the first time I heard it, she said it was the voice, and I'm like, what, the show?
Yeah.
I didn't know what she was talking about, and she said, no, your voice, and I'd be like, my voice calms anybody, because I always felt like I sounded gruff and all that kind of thing. But anyways, all right, enough of that.
He's got a smooth cadence too. You can do that speech poetry, put people to sleep.
Yeah, now I don't know what to do with it.
So,
but anyways, let's go on with it.
All right. Well, I've been thinking. We're into June now. I know I'm going on vacation at the end of this month for a week, and I know maybe towards the end of next month, hopefully when your wings healed up, or beginning of August in there somewhere, we can get out to that cabin.
Yes, I'm anxious to do that.
Yeah, me too. And we can do 1 or 2 nights. Now, I was having a conversation last night. I told you we're about 15 minutes from Serpent Mound, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there, that's kind of a really cool, just a cool added bonus to it that we're right by Serpent Mound. There's also a crystal skull right there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in that too.
Yeah, we can go see him. That guy was on Ancient Aliens. But what I'm getting at is, it'll be interesting if we do some howls and some knocks to hear just your perception of your representation of what you're going to put out there, and then my representation of what I'm going to put out there. That's going to be very interesting to hear. Like, not preparing for it, just like this is what Cecil does to make a Bigfoot sound. This is what Bill does to make a Bigfoot sound, and how different that might be.
Yeah, and speaking of that, hearing some of the researchers do howls and wood knocks, I always thought it was fascinating how some of them give out some wacky screeches and say, I think that sounds just like the Bigfoot ones I heard. And I'm going like, not to my ears, they don't. But hey, I'm not trying to knock everybody. I just thought that was a comical situation.
Well, that's pretty good. When you were talking about finding Bigfoot earlier, and whatever you think about finding Bigfoot, it doesn't matter to us. I've met Cliff. I met Bobo. I met those two guys. I believe Cliff is an 100% honest, amazing, fun guy. I love that guy. I don't know the others that well, and I don't know anything about their motives. But each one of them, Bobo has a very good Ohio call. Like, he's got that very long drawn out. Cliff has a very short, like, burst.
Yeah.
Even, what's her name? The girl.
Oh, gosh, I forgot. I know her name, but I can't think of it.
She's one of my favorite people on the show.
Yeah.
She has a very unique, that high pitch,
Yeah.
So it's, again, even every single person who's trying to fake a Bigfoot does it in a different.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason I think that's important is because someone said to me, well, every time I hear a Bigfoot sound, it's different.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. There's not one Bigfoot out there. There can't be one. If there's one, there's a bunch.
Correct. I mean, and anybody that's going to think about it in depth surely can see that there would have to be more than one sound. Just all right. It's like my dog barking versus the neighbor's dog. Both of them are irritating, but I could tell my dog from the neighbor's dog.
And you can tell when your dog is in distress versus when it's curious versus when it's hungry.
Yeah.
As humans, we make a large variety of sounds. Just a minute ago, we were laughing. But to a species that doesn't necessarily do that, that would be weird. That would almost sound, our laugh to an alien would probably sound real similar to a gorilla. Is it an aggressive sound? Is it a happy sound?
Sometimes I think it does anyways.
Yeah, it does.
I have watched quite a few nature shows, and I've watched a few gorilla shows, and I'm always fascinated at chimps, gorillas, different kind of monkeys, and different kind of apes all make these weird sounds, and some of them sound like they're laughing. I'm not sure if that's what they're doing. But some of them sound like they're laughing.
Yeah.
And some of them sound like they're trying to convey a message to the other. And surely even scientists talk about the distinct way that the howler monkey howls. It has its own quality and its own pitch, and it's designed for something. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I think it's there's a mating call. I think there's a danger call, and God only knows how many others that they have. And with that in mind, all the species of apes and monkeys sound different. Every last one of them sound different. And then you get gorillas that sound different from each other.
And you add chimps into that.
Yeah, yeah, chimps into that too.
And with what interests me with when you look at the gorillas and the chimps, they may sound somewhat similar, but if you look at their face and their expressions, a chimp is very, very much more expressionful than a gorilla. A gorilla pretty much looks angry, or they either look angry or they look indifferent, where a chimp is very expressive, you know.
Very much so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a good call on the gorilla thing. Either very ticked off or very who gives
I don't care.
a hoot about you.
Yeah. I resemble that remark.
And I started to say easily intimidated, but I don't think intimidated is the correct word. Instigated might be.
Yeah.
I was at the Houston Zoo earlier this year, and I was absolutely fascinated with watching the apes, the gorillas, and the silverback was over on the far end of the display, and he caught me looking right at him, and next thing you know, he's in my face, and come up there and slapped that glass with his hand, and then jumped off about 3 feet, and then turned around and looked at me like, yeah, you come on in here and we'll talk about who's the boss, buddy.
You felt that too inside, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually shook.
Yeah, you feel that.
Yeah.
It's interesting with those great apes. Like, they don't sit and get mad. They don't. If you do that again, they don't do the. We always hear chest puffing, emulating a gorilla. If a gorilla is chest puffing at you, you have a minute. But they're so explosive. Like you said, you looked at him and then he was there on the glass. So those encounters that happen out in the forest, if Bigfoot is a big ape, they happen and they're over.
Yeah.
And the chances of you being around to actually record some kind of sound or event from that is pretty slim, because they're not talking. They're not a half an hour of circling each other. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? They just do it.
Yeah.
And then it's over.
Yeah, they don't do like the movies talk about, I'm going to deck you and all
Right.
this kind of stuff. They just circle each other like you said, and it's on like Donkey Kong, man.
I saw a clip this past week, Silverback with his, I don't know what you call a group of gorillas, a troop, clan, family, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
One of the younger males came up to one of the females and shoved her, just kind of pushed her. I'll see if I can find this clip too. And within just a second, Dad was over there, and he had the other one pinned on the ground and just held him to the ground.
Yeah.
Wasn't squashing him, could have. It was just holding him to the ground. Wasn't yelling, wasn't making a big ruckus. It was explosive. He got him on the ground, he just held him there.
Yeah.
And then when he let him up, he walked away knowing he was his lucky day, and Dad went back to eating, chewing on some leaves. It's
Kind of reminds me of a situation with my youngest daughter. I'm not going into that one.
Okay, all right. Did I wanted to ask you before we go today, when you were in the service, in particular in Vietnam, did you ever hear the stories of what do they call them? The wood, what they call them, wood apes, I think. In
No,
Vietnam?
rock apes. They
Rock
call them
apes, yeah. I'm sorry.
Rock apes. No, I never heard that.
You never heard?
Yeah, I heard that plenty of times.
Did you?
And one of the things that happened over there too is I'm out in the bush. I was in a combat unit, so I was out in the jungle for real, weeks at a time, and I heard all kinds of strange things. There was one time a tiger, not on my watch, but on a different day from when I was actually there, just like a week before my company was at this LZ, there was a tiger actually came in and mauled one of the guys on watch. And
I'm sure you didn't think about that the whole time you were there.
oh no, I never thought about that at all. But that's a real thing. All right, so now, and it was documented. But anyways, so I'm sitting there, and it's about 6:30 in the evening, and I'm hearing a cluck 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 cluck, and going like, all right, now my grandma and grandpa had a farm and had chickens. I know what chickens sound like, and I'm telling you that sounded like chickens. But where's any chickens wild in the jungle?
Right, in Vietnam.
In Vietnam,
Right.
I know of none.
Yeah.
And what in the world could have made those?
Especially in a combat zone.
And then people were telling me before this that rock apes also mimic sounds.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know where they heard chicken sounds from, but I was told that that was probably what made it, was the rock apes. So I never did understand just exactly what a rock ape was, and not being racist or anything, but Republic of Korea Army personnel were around, and I thought they were just calling them rock.
Oh, I see.
R-O-K.
Yeah.
Rock apes.
Yeah.
And that's not what
not
the case was.
Yeah.
It's not what the case was. And so later on, I did some research here in the past 2 or 3 years, and I found out some very interesting information about purported Bigfoot in Vietnam.
I heard that they would mimic the sound of, like, to the Viet Cong, they would mimic the sound of, like, American soldiers. And to the American soldiers, they would, like, mimic the sound of the VC. Not in words, but just mimic. I wasn't there, I don't know. But that's just something I heard.
Well,
to draw people out, I guess.
The thing about that is that, well, let's just say that's true, all right, just for the sake of a discussion. Sure. But then I'm there and I'm going like, okay, how could you tell?
How would you know?
How in the world would you know? Because one night we were on a move and we were on this trail on the side of a hill, and we were supposed to meet up with another company and set up an LZ. Well, it got dark and we were on the side of this hill, and all of a sudden we had to stand ready because somebody heard something. And then turns out it was the company where we were supposed to meet was on a different trail about 30 or 40 feet up the hill.
Who's hearing the echoes?
And we heard them walking through. And it could have been Viet Cong, North Vietnamese Army, anything. But it turned out to be our own men, and we nearly had a firefight with our own guys, which would have been disastrous. But another little interesting side thing about Vietnam is that very night we were on the side of a hill, like I said, and every flat spot was taken, and the only place that I could find to sleep was I straddled a small tree to keep from sliding down the hill.
Wow.
In order to sleep.
Wow.
True story.
It's tough as nails, folks.
I don't know about that.
Tough as nails.
But I felt I was not going to slide down that hill if I could help it.
And you got to get that little bit of sleep. It don't come very often.
Oh, trust me, you don't want to miss on any sleep over there.
See, so thanks again for your service, buddy.
You're welcome.
I mean, I honestly mean that. I tried to join out of high school and I was not able to join. They wouldn't allow me. And so I'm very grateful for those that were able to serve.
And I want to tell you right now that I'm grateful that you didn't have to go.
Me too. Now, in hindsight, I am.
Yeah. I know a lot of guys that are, play that, oh man, you didn't have to go. You're a whimper or something like that, and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, man, I'm glad that you didn't have to go.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, unless you were a draft dodger, and if you were a conscientious objector. That's different from a draft dodger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed.
Big time different.
Agreed.
And that is completely acceptable. But one must remember that without the sacrifices that many of them made, we would not have the freedoms that we have today. We wouldn't be able to talk about anybody with the freedom that we have.
You may not even be able to talk about Bigfoot.
Exactly.
You know what kept me out of the service?
What's that?
I'm an only child of an only child. My grandfather had one brother who only had daughters. So I was the end of my family bloodline. I tried to join the Army, and they said no. So I thought, well, I'll go to the Marine Corps. They won't care. They cared. Yeah. I was going to join the military, use the GI Bill, go to college, be a medic. That was my plan.
Oh, God. Boy, I'm glad you didn't have to.
I am now at this point. Anyway, folks, thank you for tuning in. Wild Aberrations is our email address. Let me double check that spelling real quick. And we're going to have a Facebook page opening up soon. And we hope to hear from you, things you want to hear us talk about, stories you'd like to hear us review and retell. If you want Cecil to lull you to sleep, he can do that tonight. Lullaby. It is
I'll shut up.
Wild Aberration, all one word, at gmail.com. Our podcast is Aberrations in the Wild, but you can only use the email addresses that are available to you. So wildaberration at gmail.com it is, and I'll have that Facebook address next week. I also have the sound. We were talking about different sounds that sound like laughing.
Okay.
I've got a good one
good.
for you
Good.
next
I want to
week.
hear that.
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
good one. Terrifying.
All right. Folks, thanks for listening.
Thanks, everybody.
See you next time.